task, often imitated, never duplicated, the greatest show under the world of outlaws.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back tonight to the Online Sim Racing Network as we go back side by side with the PRL. Tonight, the PRL is hosting round number 3 of 20. Actually, in this case, round 3 of 13, because 13 races in the regular race season, with tonight's race being at Richmond, and this is season number 9. I'm your commentator, Sean Zulu. And joining me up here in the booth is David Everly. How you doing tonight, Dave?
Doing pretty good, Sean. How you doing?
Oh, doing good too, thank you. Just ready to get back into the mix of things with the PRL after having an amazing race last week at Bristol. Speaking of last week's race, we did have a special guest, and that was 45 of Eddie Hawks from last season and the seasons before that. And in that race, we had Kevin Whitaker bring it home. Kevin Whitaker brought it home for his second time. So Kevin Whitaker winning the first 2 races. That was very impressive. Richard Regan Jr. came out second. Joseph Yankins came out third. Daniel Smallwood fourth. Joshua Witherspoon fifth. Seth Silverio sixth. James O'Brien seventh. Kyle Souza eighth. Brandon Walter ninth. And Poe D. Johnson did round up the top 10 in that race. And these drivers all belong to teams, so gonna go over the teams of the top 10 drivers from last week's race. Kevin Whitaker, Gen X Racing. Richard Regan Jr., Gen X Racing. Joseph Yankins, Gen X2 team. Daniel Smallwood, Old Schools Motorsports. Joshua Witherspoon, GRG. We have Seth Silverio, Gen X2. James O'Brien, Road Trip Racing. Kyle Souza, Rim Riding Racing, Brandon Walter, Road Trip Racing, and Poe D. Johnson as well with the Road Trip Racing team. So we have 3 drivers from the Road Trip Racing team in the top 10, James O'Brien, Brandon Walter, and Poe D. Johnson. And we also have 2 drivers from Gen X Racing in the top 10, top 2 in points actually, Kevin Whitaker and Richard Regan. That's first and second respectively. And also 2 drivers from the Gen X2 team. That's Joseph Yankins and Seth Silverio. Well, ladies and gentlemen, moving on to our current point standings with 2 races in this far. We have Kevin Whitaker leading in points. Kevin Whitaker only 1 point ahead of his teammate Richard Regan Jr. We have James O'Brien 3rd place in points. We also have Craig Hawkins 4th place in points, and Craig Hawkins is 2 points ahead of 2 drivers who are tied for 5th place, namely Stephen Aguiar and Kyle Souza tied for 5th place. Once again, that's Stephen Aguiar and Kyle Souza tied for 5th place in points. We have Brandon Walter and Michael Knight. Brandon Walter, Michael Knight tied for 6th place in points. That's 6th in points, only 1 point behind the 5th place drivers, Kyle Souza and Stephen Aguiar. We have Ian Lane 7th place in points, only 6 points behind the 2 tied drivers, Walter and Michael Knight. And now we have 4 drivers, yes, I said it, 4 drivers tied for 8th place in points, namely Christian Swenson, Daniel Smallwood, John LaBeouf, and Joshua Witherspoon. I repeat, Christian Swenson, Daniel Smallwood, John LaBeouf, and Joshua Witherspoon tied for 8th place in points. Rory Collins is 9th place in points, and Brendan Chatley is rounding up the top 10 in points. So we have 15 drivers in the top 10 starting tonight's race. That is very, very impressive, and most likely the closest you're going to see these points all season long. And the drivers here as well do belong to teams, but here the grid is now ready. I'm going to cut this short a little bit. So tonight's post sitter is the 89 of Brian Wayand. That's Brian Wayand in the 89. 88 of Daniel Smallwood, last week's alien, one of last week's aliens, starting second. 51 of Joseph Yankins in 3rd place. Stephen Aguiar 4th. Craig Hawkins 5th. Kevin Whitaker 6th, and Kevin Whitaker already having 2 wins this far. 00 Kyle Souza 7th, Ian Lane 8th, Corey Smith 9th, Christian Swenson 10th, rounding up the top 10. James O'Brien, defending champion, starting 11th, Seth Silverio 12th, Joshua Witherspoon 13th, Richard Regan Jr. 14th, Michael Knight 15th, Rory Collins 16th, Jerome Berthome 17th, Rob Thomas 18th, Colton Lane 19th, and Josh Bachman in the 20th place spot, and rounding up the drivers who qualified tonight in the top 20. And now the rest of the field, just going to call the whole entire names here. So we have Ken Caruthers, Brandon Walter, David Dreckman, Jason Ashby, John LaBeouf, Eric Roberts, Chris Perez, Brendan Chatley, and Ronald McManus, rounding up the whole entire field of 28 drivers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, tonight this is Richmond Raceway, and this track is 0.75 miles in length. I repeat, 0.75 miles in length. and the drivers going around for 200 laps. That is 200 laps. I must say 220. And tonight we do have a 72-degree Fahrenheit track temp. It is partly cloudy, with a 70-degree Fahrenheit air temperature, with winds from the south at 12 miles per hour. Well, we are now rolling here behind the pace car being led by the 89 of Brian Wend. And ladies and gentlemen, this is race number 3 of 13. That's race 3 of 13. And this is Season 9, the Precision Racing League. That's Precision Racing League AMSOIL American Iracing Sunday Series, brought to you by AMSOIL, specializing in synthetic lubricants for vehicles and equipment. They are the first in synthetics. And we have Nation_01 in the chat to welcome to the Online Sim Racing Network there, Nation. Hope you're doing well tonight. And hope everybody is ready for some amazing side-by-side action coming to you live on the Online Sim Racing Network. I am Sean Zulu with David Everly, my wingman, coming to you live from Richmond Raceway, going green here before too long behind this pace car 88 of Smallwood on the outside, ahead of the 8 of Stephen Aguiar, inside line being led by Brian Wayand with the help of 51 of Joseph Yankins. The pace car dips off, and Brian still holding pace speed. Green, green, green. The green flag is out, and Brian finds the gas pedal, able to lead a big nose and maintain the lead entering turn 1 against the 88 of Daniel Smallwood. 51 of Yankins falls short of the exit of turn number 2. Yes, the caution flies this time around. A very quick caution. Gonna see what happened.
Well, that's going to involve the 24 there of Josh Buckman here, as we're going to go back to the replay. Looks like maybe a little bit of contact here between him and Jerome Bartholomew as they were racing it out into turn number 1. Yeah, just a little contact, just enough to get him around, unfortunately. Also, it looks like it's going to involve the 41 of Chris Perez as well.
Oh man, absolutely very unfortunate for all the drivers involved in that, especially the 24 of Josh Bachman getting the worst end of that deal in that. And keeping in mind, ladies and gentlemen, the drivers here in the PRL do not have any backup cars, any quick fixes, any fast repairs, which means that if the damage is bad enough to end their night, it will, in fact, end their night without a doubt. And 24 of Josh Bachman, one of the victims, going down pit road as we speak to get some of that damage fixed. But the good thing is the machine is still living. But the front-end damage there is actually most likely going to affect the airflow, which in turn will affect the machine's cooling, and that is not a good thing. So his pit crew is going to try and straighten that machine out in the front to allow as much air to cool that motor. But going back up front, we are still being led by 89 of Brian Wand, second place driver Daniel Smallwood, 51 Joseph Yankins third, Stephen Aguiar fourth, and Craig Hawkins rounding up the top 5. And behind this pace car, we have the 91 of Rob Thomas. And ladies and gentlemen, this season PRL doing it a little bit different. This season we do have a total of 20 races. That is 20 races broken up into regular race season and chase series. So we have 13 races in the regular race season, followed by a 7-race chase series, which is 20 races total and 20 weeks in total at the exact same time. So here we knocked out 2 races already. So after this race, we're going to have 10 races left. So at this point, everybody trying to get themselves locked into the upcoming chase. Here in the first 13 races, well, in this case, the next 11 races to come. So we already have Kevin Whitaker, who won both the first 2 races. So he already has himself locked into this chase, representing the Gen X racing team. And not to forget the 9 of James O'Brien. James O'Brien, season 8 champion, last season's champion. And he has had 3 championships in the PRL series. So he's trying to go for his 4th this season. Let's see who's going to stop him. And we are now back 1 to green with the exact same lineup. Brian Wend in the lead on the inside with the help of the 51 of Joseph Yankins. Outside line being led by 88 of Daniel Smallwood with the help of the 8 of Stephen Aguiar. We have the 3 drivers in the top 5 rocking the Amsoil paint schemes. Very well dressed. And that pace car dips off going green this time around. Then we have the 89 of Wayne who finds that gas pedal. 51 of Joseph Floyd coming in time to maintain the inside of the 88 of Daniel Smallwood. They do end up going side by side. Exiting turn number 2, 88 of Smallwood ends up falling short. And Yankins comes out in the upper hand. Smallwood now bumps down to 3rd place. Yankins 2nd place. Stephen Aguiar 4th place. And Stephen Aguiar actually overtaken by the 23 of Craig Hawkins. So Aguiar now bumps down to 5th place and Craig Hawkins to 4th. Ladies and gentlemen, this track once again is 0.75 miles in length. And the drivers tonight running all the way from 20-second lap times, so 20 seconds to 21-second lap times, depending on tire wear. The laps do go by pretty quickly. With that said, a lot of speed is being carried by these drivers at the exact same time. A lot of rubber is being burnt at a very, very fast rate. So with that said, these drivers have to take care of their stuff so they can be able to be there for the very end. And the saying always comes to life. The drivers can either choose to lose now and gain later, or gain now and lose later. What that means is that they have 2 options. They can either race hard now in the short run and end up losing in the long run, or they can save now in the short run and end up gaining in the long run. We're going to be seeing a lot of drivers falling into different categories. As last week at Bristol, we ended up noticing the 88 of Smallwood, who fell in the first category of burning up his stuff early on and losing later on. But he ended up changing his strategy up during the last half of the race and ended up being successful as a result of that, finishing the 4th place spot. And here for the back in the pack, we have the 15 of Christian Swenson behind the 18 of Kevin Whitaker. They are trying to catch up to the leaders as we speak. And up front, battle for the race lead going on as we speak, side by side between 51 of Yankins and the 689 of Brian Wand. So far, Wand on the outside, Yankins on the inside. This is going to have who's going to be successful on the exit of 4. They still somehow stay side by side, and Yankins gonna take over the race lead this time. 88 of Daniel Smallwood just waiting. So far, he's trying to follow the fastest lane, and he picks the inside line against the 89 of Wand. One man's mistake is another man's benefit. One driver's mistake is another man's benefit. So 89 of Wand was shuffled out on the outside line, being the odd man out, and Smallwood benefiting from that greatly. And for the back in the pack, 22 of Richard Regan Jr. going at it side by side against his teammate, the 18 of Kevin Whitaker. They almost make some contact entering turn number 1, but off the exit of turn number 222 of Regan goes way too wide, allowing the 18 of Kevin Whitaker to maintain the 7th place spot. But crossover engaged by the 22 of Regan against his teammate Whitaker, side by side entering turn 1. And successful pass, great job by the 22 of Regan Jr. against Whitaker, and that bumps Whitaker down to the 8th place spot, and Regan Jr. into the 7th place. And this far, a lot of single file going on with 18 laps in. These drivers trying to buy their time. This track is one of the, it does fall on the trickier side. So everybody trying to avoid the sudden looseness. And we have a driver going down pit road as we speak. That's the 91 of Rob Thomas here with 18 laps in. Something tells me that it's not a scheduled pit stop. And for the back in the pack, we have the 60 of Coton Lane. Coton Lane having a Sunday drive. About 1 second behind his next victim, this 00 of Caio Souza for the 12th place spot. And Coton Lane rocking the Mountain Dew Camaro paint scheme, very, very well dressed. Behind him is the 35 of Rory Collins. In the 18th place spot, we have the 79 of Joshua Witherspoon. Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, we have 4 drivers in the top 10 who are tied for 8th place in points. Christian Swenson, Daniel Smallwood, John LaBeouf, and Joshua Witherspoon. These 4 drivers trying to break that tie. Let's actually get a status check on every single one of the drivers on this list. So Christian Swenson, the 15 machine, currently running in the 5th place spot. We also have we have Daniel Smallwood. Daniel Smallwood, I don't believe is here tonight.
He's currently second position.
Oh, yep. My apologies. Yep, Daniel Smallwood is in the second position. Actually, I just talked about him, but I forgot that he was here tonight. So Smallwood in 2nd place. We also have John LaBeouf, the 911, currently riding in the 15th place spot, and Joshua Witherspoon, the 79 machine, currently in the 17th place spot. So these 4 drivers here are quite spread out, with the exception of Christian Swenson and Daniel Smallwood, who are only 1 spot apart, or 1 machine apart. But everybody else is spaced out. But they're going to try and get together before too long to try and break that tie. And for the back in the pack here, we have a pack or a cluster being led by the 33 of David Dreckman, Corey Smith, Brendan Chatley. These 3 drivers here, single file so far in the status check on the 24 of Josh Bachman. Josh Bachman, who got the worst end of the deal during the lap 1 incident. Currently back on the racing surface, beat up Toyota Camry. But he is still rolling despite that. Currently in the 23rd place spot and was able to stay on the lead lap. Actually, we have Josh Bachman going on the apron, slowing down at a fast rate. Going down pit road this time around. Yeah, maybe Josh Bachman is going down pit road to get more damage fixed. And that's very unfortunate for the 24 of Josh Bachman. We have 99 of Brennan Walter as well. Brennan Walter is 1 lap down. 91 of Rob Thomas, 4 laps down. And 78 of Ronald McManus here in the 14 laps down early on. Unfortunately, a rough start for these drivers. And 41 of Chris Perez blew his motor and is still on pit road in the Ironic Sim Racing Ford Mustang, getting the damage fixed as well. And up front, side by side, going on for second place between the 89 of Brian Wayand and the 88 of Daniel Smallwood. And Smallwood ends up falling short of the exit of turn number 2. Entering turn number 3, he has his inside occupied by a new driver, 15 of Christian Swenson, but Swenson ends up falling way too short of turn 4. And the caution flies on lap 32. Gonna back it up and see what happened.
Well, that's going to involve the 77 of Ken Carruthers and the 17 of Jerome Bartholomew, as they were battling it out there for the probably about the 18th position, and Jerome goes around there. We're going to take another look here as the 77 of Ken Carruthers comes in a little hard and gets right into that inside quarter panel and spins him up into the outside wall. No other cars involved.
Oh man, yeah, that's very unfortunate for both drivers involved, especially the 17 of Jerome Berthome, who got the worst end of that deal. Heavy contact with the wall. And that Ford Mustang definitely has seen better days. But hopefully, is still able to get back out there and do more damage. And one more thing, or when I say damage, I mean in terms of competition, trying to, to overtake as many drivers as he can to better his spot before the race is over. And the good thing about this track is that it's not all about the aerodynamics. So even if they have beat up machines, they still can compete for the lead with the lead cars up front. But up front, we are being led by Joseph Yankans, who leads everybody down pit road. And 78 of Ron McManus stays out behind the pace car, hoping to get one lap back to be put down to 13 laps down here this time around. And the race off pit road was won by 51. Joseph Yankans coming out first, Brandon Wayand second, Christian Swenson third, Daniel Smallwood fourth, and Kevin Whitaker in the 5th place spot. So the position changes we had on pit road included Daniel Smallwood getting overtaken by Christian Swenson and bumping him down 1 spot, and Kevin Whitaker gaining 2 spots, overtaking Stephen Aguiar and Craig Hawkins and putting himself up into 5th from 7th. And ladies and gentlemen, also one other new thing going on or happening this season. They do have the Transdo Cup. That's Transdo, T-R-A-N-S-D-O. And what that is, basically, is the Transdo Cup. They'll be giving the safest driver all season long $75 US. That's $75 going to the safest and cleanest driver all season long, and that's sponsored by the Transdo Transport and Logistics. That's Transdo Transport and Logistics. But there is a kicker to it. The driver must complete 16 of the 20 races, and in all these races, the driver must complete at least 75% of the race, of each race. So once again, the driver must complete 16 of the 20 races at the exact same time. They must complete 75% of every single race. That is $75 US to the cleanest driver. Going back up front, we are being led by Joseph Yankans with the help of Daniel Smallwood on the inside. Actually, scratch that, that's 15 of Christian Swenson. Outside line being led by Brian Wayand with the help of 88 of Daniel Smallwood. Pace car dips up, and 51 of Yankans finds that gas pedal, gets a great restart against the 89 of Wayand, and Wayand was caught sleeping enough for the 15 of Swenson to look to his inside, side by side, entering turn 2. Exiting turn 2, slingshot engaged by Wayand against Swenson. They still stay side by side though, exiting turn 4. 88 of Daniel Smallwood so far trying to find the quickest way around the track, basically the quickest lane. So far he's falling in behind the 15 of Swenson against the 89 of Wayand, but he ends up backing off turn number 2 to just ride. But he goes back down to the inside. 89 of Wayand is trying to catch a break, but so far having no luck. It's gonna get worse for him before it gets better. And since these drivers are side by side up front, 18 of Kevin Whitaker, 22 of Richard Regan Jr., 23 of Craig Hawkins, 15 of Swenson goes around sideways off the exit of 4, and the caution flies.
Well, as we go back here on the replay, we're going to focus on the 15 of Swenson here. They were battling it out for second and third. Daniel Smallwood right there behind him. And look, oh, now actually it looks like maybe the back end just kicked out on him. Let's see if we can get a different angle here. As we see the 15 of Swenson coming into the turn. Oh, he made, yep, that back end just kicked out of him. Nowhere for him to go. He goes around, but unfortunately back out on the track. That is going to be our third caution here tonight.
Oh man, yeah, that was unfortunate for the 15 of Christian Swenson. Oh man, yeah, looks like he just went a little bit too low, too close to that yellow line that upset that machine. That was a nice avoidance by the 88 of Smallwood, who was almost tapping the 15 of Swenson to assist him in that deadly spin. But nice save, no harm was done, including Swenson. He gets out of that unscratched. Well, in this case, with a brand new machine, not a single scratch on it. Going back up front, we are still being led by Brian Wayand, 51 of Yankan second, Kyle Souza third. Actually, Kyle Souza is being shown third so far. Okay, so we have Wayand still in the lead, Kyle Souza second, Seth Silverio third, James O'Brien fourth, and Ronald McManus, no, scratch that, that's John LaBeouf in the 5th place spot. So under this caution, we had the majority of the field go down pit road with a few drivers staying out. So everybody pitted in except for Brian Wayand, Kyle Souza, Seth Silverio, James O'Brien, including John LaBeouf. These drivers did stay out. And here with 44 laps into tonight's race, our heaviest movers being the 911, our heaviest mover is the 911 of John LaBeouf. John LaBeouf from 24th place to 5th place this far, trying to break the tie against Joshua Witherspoon, Daniel Smallwood, and Christian Swenson. And some new drivers in the top 10 include Seth Silverio, James O'Brien, and Richard Regan Jr. But John LaBeouf is giving up that tie break up front here early on, going down pit road as we speak. And so with the difference on tires, actually there's going to be a 9-lap difference on tires with the top four drivers against the rest of the field, and that should not affect them whatsoever, if any, due to them pitting in not too long ago. So they should be in good hands. But maybe once that long run kicks in, maybe then they might start noticing some differences against their opponents who did pit in under this caution. We are now back 1 to green, still being led by Brian Wayand, post hitter, with the help of 81 of Seth Silverio on the inside. Outside line being led by Kyle Souza with the help of James O'Brien. Pace car dips off, and Brian Wayand finds that gas pedal. He has the double zero Kyle Souza caught sleeping, and Kyle Souza trying to play catch up as we speak, entering turn number 1, and Kyle Souza lost 2 spots before turn number 1 to the 88 of Smallwood and the 81 of Seth Silverio. And so far he falls back in line in the 4th place spot as 88 of Smallwood goes against the 81 of Silverio successfully, and that bumps Silverio down to 3rd place and Smallwood up to 3rd. And these drivers trying to take while they can in the first 5 laps of this run. They have the most grip this far, and they're trying to take advantage of that while they can. So a lot of side-by-side going on as a result of that. And now the 2 teammates going at it again side-by-side. Whitaker, actually that's going to be Whitaker and the 81 of Seth Silverio in the Amsoil machines. '51 of Joseph Youngkin's a free launch program against the 81 of Seth Silverio side by side, entering turn 1. And the 9 of James O'Brien, road trip racing driver, currently behind the 81 of Seth Silverio and ahead of 23 of Craig Hawkins in the 8th place spot. And now everybody up front from 1st place to about 10th place ends up going back single file to just ride. But for the back in the pack, 64 of Michael Knight. Michael Knight currently in the 16th place spot, ahead of 911 of John LaBeouf. John LaBeouf in the 18th place position. At the exact same time, we have Rory Collins being challenged by the 59 of Brandon Chatley, but they end up going back single file in the 18th and 19th place spots, respectively. And this far in, 54 laps into tonight's race, I'm noticing that the drivers is pretty much doing the queue line this far. What that means is that in the turns they go all the way low as they possibly can go. But then on the exits of the turns, they do end up exiting towards the wall to get that perfect exit, to have that less wheel scrub and more momentum carried out. And so far, that's exactly what they are doing. But when they end up going side by side, the outside line propels on the exits of the turns, but the inside line propels entering the turns. And that is as expected. And a driver on the apron, 77 of Ken Carruthers, is going down pit road as we speak. And a new viewer tuning back in, that is John Marine. Welcome back, John Marine. Hope you're doing well tonight, man. Hope you're doing well. Oh man, some bad news. We have lost the 77 of Ken Carruthers, unfortunately, retiring early into tonight's race with 57 laps in. We look forward to seeing this driver and everybody else back next week for Talladega. For the back in the pack, we have the 8 of Stephen Aguiar. Stephen Aguiar, we spoke much of this driver, a lot of this driver last week at Bristol. Just pretty much buying his time, trying to just take while he can and not forcing any matters. And was there to the very end as a result of that. But right now, he's actually just going to the back of the pack to just try and ride as he was overtaken by both 15 of Swenson and 79 of Witherspoon. Oh, a spinner off the exit of turn number 4, 79 of Witherspoon around, and the caution flies.
Well, that looks like a little bit of contact between him and the 15 here as we go back to the replay. 15 down underneath and just a little contact there in the right rear, or left rear, sent the 79 around. He's got a little back end damage, but nobody else involved, so good job there, just being able to keep it and everybody getting around him safely.
Absolutely, man. That was a nice save, a save and a half, if you will, by Joshua Witherspoon. That could have been worse, but he keeps that machine, and the machine lives to fight for a few more laps, hopefully until the end of the race. So nice save and great awareness by the drivers, minimizing that the most that they could. But going back up front, the leader Brian Wayand leading everybody down pit road. And the driver in the lucky dog spot is the 17 of Jerome Berthome, going from 2 laps down to 1 lap down. And under this caution, we have every single driver, that's every single driver, down pit road. Oh, we've lost 2 more drivers, unfortunately, Rob Thomas and Ronald McManus. We look forward to seeing these drivers back next week for Talladega. Going back up front, the race off pit road was won by 51 of Joseph Youngkins, beating Brian Wayand and Daniel Smallwood. So he entered pit road in 3rd place and comes out 1st place. Congrats to Joseph Youngkins. 2nd place driver off pit road is Brian Wayand, Smallwood 3rd, Kyle Souza 4th, and Kevin Whitaker in that 5th place spot. And a new viewer in the chat, we have Chris Lee. Welcome to the Online Sim Racing Network there, Chris Lee. Hope you're doing well. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, this is round number 3 of 13, season number 9, the Precision Racing League. That's Precision Racing League AMSOIL American Iracing Sunday Series, brought to you by AMSOIL. That's AMSOIL, specializing in synthetic lubricants for vehicles and equipment. They are the first in synthetics. We are now back 1 to green, being led by Joseph Youngkins, new leader, with the help of Daniel Smallwood. Outside line being led by Brian Wayand, with the help of 00 of Kyle Souza. Exiting turn 4, pace car dips off, and Brian finds that gas pedal. He gets around the 89 of Wayne successfully, and now Yankans entering turn 1 is able to... Oh man, and we have Brian... Oh, 88 of Smallwood goes sideways. He saves it somehow. Oh man, that confuses everybody. Big confusion going on as Smallwood tries to recover from his mistake. Some 3 wide, back double wide. Smallwood here, 8 of Stephen Aguiar. We have Swenson, 9 of James O'Brien, and 22 of Richard Regan Jr. going at it. Everybody seems to get around that successfully. Nice save. And Richard Regan Jr. has sustained some heavy front-end damage on that Ford Mustang, but is still doing well regardless of the caution flies this time around.
This time that's going to be the 59 of Brandon Chatley. He just, looks like he just loses it. Let's go back to the replay and take a little bump from the 79. Joshua Witherspoon gets him a little bit out of shape. He hits the wall not too hard, but he gets it going back again, and that is caution number 5.
Oh man, absolutely. That's very unfortunate. The driver involved in that, unfortunately. But hopefully they're still able to stay competitive despite that. We also have a new viewer in the chat. We have Gen X Racing in the chat. Welcome to the Online Sim Racing Network. Gen X, I should say, welcome back to the Online Sim Racing Network. Hope you're doing well. We're still being led by 51 of Joseph Yankans, who's faking everybody down pit road. So Yankan staying out, Brian Wayne 2nd, Kevin Whitaker 3rd, Christian Swenson 4th, and Richard Regan Jr. in the 5th place spot. Majority of the field staying out with the exception of Colton Lane, David Dreckman, Joshua Witherspoon, Brendan Walter, Brendan Chatley, and Kyle Souza. And Jerome Berthome gets 2 laps back with 69 laps in. Well, 70 laps in. So Jerome Berthome gets that lucky dog and back on the lead lap. Congrats. And ladies and gentlemen, next week, round number 4 at Talladega Super Speedway. That is going to be one heck of a race, so be sure to be a part of it, as here the teammates will all be able to get together and do some damage. And also, ladies and gentlemen, keep in mind that the drivers here do run open setups. They've been running open setups since last season. And from the driver's perspective, they do say it makes the racing better, as it does give them options and also leaves the driving, it basically puts the driving all into their hands when they're able to set up the machine to their liking. So that's pretty amazing. So open setups this season and last season is going well. So we're going to be seeing a lot of drivers experiencing different conditions. Some might be tight, some might be loose. We saw it on the last restart. Smallwood was sideways entering turn number 2, but was able to save it. And look, by the looks of it, he was the only driver who was sideways. And a new viewer in the chat, we have Aaron Todamon. That's Aaron Todamon in the chat. Welcome to the Online Sim Racing Network there, Aaron. Hope you're doing well. And he says, Yankans, you got this, bro. That's a 51 of Joseph Yankans. We are now back 1 to green, being led by Yankans with the help of the 18 of Kevin Whitaker on the inside. Outside line is the 89 of Brian Wayand with the help of 15 of Christian Swenson. Pace car dips off and Yankans finds that gas pedal, able to maintain the race lead against the 89 of Ryan Wayand. In third place, actually fourth place, side by side between 22 of Richard Regan and the 88 of Smallwood. Actually, that's 15 of Christian Swenson. They are going at it side by side with Smallwood in the rear view. Smallwood being challenged by the 8 of Stephen Aguiar. Stephen Aguiar has a heavy foot and is not afraid to use it. Entering turn number 1, though, Smallwood ends up edging him out of the exit of turn 2. He clears him successfully, and that keeps Stephen Aguiar in 7th place. And top 5 Sawyer drivers so far going single file here as we speak. Richard Regan, despite his heavy damage on the front end, still doing good regardless, though despite that in this case, currently in the 4th place spot behind his teammate Kevin Whitaker. 15 of Christian Swenson as well in the 5th place spot. We have Daniel Smallwood 6th, Stephen Aguiar 7th, James O'Brien 8th, Ian Lane 9th, and Craig Hawkins in the 10th place spot. And speaking of the 98 of Ian Lane with the GRG's racing team currently in the 9th place spot, trying to keep the 23 of Craig Hawkins off of him. Oh, we have a driver spinning out. 22 of Richard Regan spun out sideways, heavy smoke, and the caution flies.
Yes. Oh, he just lost it coming off of turn 2. And then they went 3 wide. He was the 22 was on the outside, 15. Let's take another look here if we can. Let's get a different view here. Yeah, 3 wide, and unfortunately the 15 was there. Made contact with the 22. The 22 around up into the outside wall.
Oh man, yeah, that's very unfortunate for the 22 of Richard Regan. Yeah, but great job to everybody minimizing the damage the most that they could. And that ended up being a 1 car wreck involved, and Richard Regan getting the worst end of that deal in this case, with some heavy right side damage on that Sawyer Ford Mustang, but he still lives to fight for more laps to come. But up front here, we are being led by 88 of Daniel Smallwood, who stays out, with Kyle Souza, Joshua Witherspoon, Colton Lane, and David Dreckman, but everybody else pitting in. And Daniel Smallwood this far having the most laps on his tires and tank, and that's 18 laps to be exact. So he has 18 laps since his last pit stop, but everybody else behind him has only 10 laps on their tires and tanks. So if he stays out and it goes green for a while, he'll end up feeling the effects of his decision before too long, unfortunately, because the drivers who just pitted in now at this point will have 19 laps less than he does on his tires. That is not a good thing at all. But the race off pit road was won by Joseph Yankans. We have Kevin Whitaker, who came out second off pit road. Brian Wand came out third. Stephen Aguiar fourth. And James O'Brien came out fifth off pit road. But this rounds up drivers from 6th place to 10th place. That's a top 10. And the 79 of Joshua Witherspoon gives up the 3rd place spot to go down pit road. But Kyle Souza still staying out. And we've had some drivers keep a very low profile tonight. We have a 99. That's a 99 of Brandon Walter. Brandon Walter currently in the 17th place spot after starting in the 22nd place position behind the 911 of John LaBaff, and currently ahead of 59 of Brendan Chatley. And also we have 35 Rory Collins in 20th place, David Dreckman 21st, and a status check on Richard Regan Jr., who's currently still on pit road, with his pit crew hard at work, actually just now rolling off pit road as we spoke. And the machine is still back to life, so that's very good to see. Should be back up there before too long. Going back up front, we are being led by 88 of Daniel Smallwood. Smallwood, ladies and gentlemen, has 19 laps more on his tires compared to everybody behind him, with the exception of Souza and Cotton Lane. So we're going to see exactly how things play out. That very deadly wheel spin is most likely might get him if he's not careful. So let's see what happens. But here we have Daniel Smallwood with the help of Cotton Lane. Outside line being led by Kyle Souza with the help of 51 of Yankan's pace car dips off. The green flag is out and Smallwood finds the gas pedal. Kyle Souza got spun out. He gets rear-ended. The caution flies. Oh man, that collects a lot more drivers than expected. But the caution flies once again and Souza gets the worst end of that deal.
Yeah, it's a lot of cars actually involved in that. That was just, wow. That was not a good restart.
Absolutely. Yeah, looks like it was in an initial contact between the 51 of Joseph Yankins and the 60 of Cotton Lane. So we had Cotton Lane and 51 of Yankins make contact, and that shot 60 of Cotton Lane up into the 00 of Kyle Souza, and that just caused the chain reaction for the back on. So the only driver there who got who was in the best spot was the leader, the 88 of Daniel Smallwood. Yeah, that's gonna make pit road a very, very busy place with the 85 laps in, but we are still being led by Daniel Smallwood, Kevin Whitaker second, Brian Wayand third, Joseph Yankins fourth, and Stephen Aguiar in the fifth place spot. And focusing on Daniel Smallwood, is it going to stay out or pit in? Let's see. All right, Daniel Smallwood staying out still on the exact same old tires. And a few drivers pitting in: Cotton Lane, John LaBeouf, Joshua Witherspoon, Richard Regan Jr., and Kyle Souza, but everybody else stays out. That's a good one, Aaron. There's still a long way to go. You never know. Yeah, it's a good reminder, ladies and gentlemen. The cleanest driver at the end of the season will be receiving $75 US. That's a lot of money, and that's a lot of motivation for them to keep it clean. So that's pretty amazing. We're going to see exactly who gets the $75 US, brought to you by the Transdo Transport and Logistics. And ladies and gentlemen, a lot of different teams out there racing here against each other. We have Old Schoos Motorsports. That's Old Schoos Motorsports. It has Craig Hawkins, Daniel Smallwood, and Sean Dower. So that's Old Schoos Motorsports. We have No Fear Racing with John LaBeouf and Trevor White, including Brody Green. So No Fear Racing, John LaBeouf, Trevor White, and Brody Green. Road Trip Racing, Paul D. Johnson, James O'Brien, David Dreckman, and Brandon Walter. We have Ironic Sim Racing. It has Ronald McManus, Chris Perez, Jerome Berthome, and Danny Duchesne. We have Breaking Point Racing. That's Breaking Point Racing. Brandon Massey, Ken Caruthers has a two-man team so far. Gen X Racing is back. It has Kevin Whitaker, Brian Wayand, Richard Regan, and Christian Swenson. We have the Gen X2 team. It has Stephen Aguiar, Seth Silverio, and Joseph Yankins. We have GRG, Ian Lane, Josh Bachman, Joshua Witherspoon, and Michael Knight. We have Rim Riding Racing. That's Rim Riding Racing, Kyle Souza, Cotton Lane, and Steven Mattox. So that's all the teams so far, this far for now. But some more teams are still being developed as the season goes on. So all these different teams going at it and trying to also race for the team championship. because they have a team championship as well that goes on. And so far, the team championship stands. We have Gen X Racing in the lead. We have Road Trip Racing second place in team championship. GRG is third in points. Gen X2 is fourth place in points. Aeronix Sim Racing, 5th place in points. Rim Riding Racing, 6th place in points. No Fear Racing is 7th place in points. Old Scoos Motorsports is 8th place in points. And Breaking Point Racing, 9th place in points. But going back to the race, we are now back 1 to green, still being led by Smallwood with the help of Brian Wayand. Outside line being led by Kevin Whitaker with the help of Yankins, but the pace car dips off, going green. The green flag flies and Smallwood finds that gas pedal. He gets a great restart against Whitaker and Brian Wayand, who are side by side entering turn number 1. But Whitaker ends up edging out Wayand on the exit of turn 2 with a slingshot. Yes, he does. And that keeps Wayand in the 3rd place spot against 51 of Yankins. $15 of Christian Swenson going at it against 23 of Craig Hawkins. Side by side they go. Hawkins to the inside, Swenson to the outside. Who's going to win this fight? Exiting turn number 4, Hawkins somehow gets a great run against Swenson and now is challenging the 8 of Aguiar. And Hawkins able to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, got around both Swenson and the 8 of Stephen Aguiar. And now his next victim is a 9 of James O'Brien. And 79 of Joshua Witherspoon trying to play catch-up here after him getting involved in the last incident there that ended up sending him to the back in the pack. He's currently in the 13th place spot, and now his next victim being the 64 of Michael Knight. And not too long ago, he got around the 59 of Brennan Chatley. $22 of Richard Regan as well, trying to make some moves as we speak. He has 35 of Collins on his outside, and behind him is the 911 of John LaBeouf. John LaBeouf here so far watching the battle from his shotgun seat between 22 of Regan and 35 of Collins, but they end up going side by side, and Collins falls short of the exit of turn number 2, and Collins bumps down 2 spots from 15th to 17th. And a status check on the 6-0 of Coton Lane. Coton Lane currently in the 18th place spot as well, trying to get back up to the front where he was before the last caution, where he got a bad restart, or he got involved in the restart junk that ended up occurring. Unfortunately, he's currently now behind 35 of Rory Collins for 17th. And first driver 1 lap down, first and only driver 1 lap down, 99 of Brandon Walter with the Road Trip Racing team here so far. Just trying to play it safe, trying to play it smart, hoping for a caution so he can be able to get the lucky dog, because so far he has no threat for his lucky dog unless he gets involved in an incident. So hopefully that's not the case, so fingers crossed for that, and hopefully he gets his lap back before too long. 59 of Brandon Chatley getting freight trained so far on the outside line. He has 60 of Lane to his inside. They are going at it side by side, and Brandon Chatley currently in the 18th place spot. Just lost 2 spots this lap actually to the 00 of Kaya Souza and Rory Collins, and now 60 of Cotton Lane. So 3 spots lost. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are now past the halfway mark. Gonna take our first commercial break of the evening. We'll be right back, so please stay tuned.
Don't let your first date be your last. Visit People Against Distracted Driving at PADD.org.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to tonight's race, round 3 of 13 in the regular race season. For the chase begins with the Precision Racing League AMSOIL American Iracing Sunday Series. That's Precision Racing League AMSOIL American Iracing Sunday Series, brought to you by AMSOIL. That's AMSOIL. They do specialize in synthetic lubricants for vehicles and equipment. They are the first in synthetics, and check them out at amsoil.com. Well, we are under caution here so far, and the incident was contact between Daniel Smallwood and 51 of Joseph Youngkins, which did send Daniel Smallwood up into the outside wall, and making him get the worst end of that deal, unfortunately. In a status check on Daniel Smallwood, currently being shown in the 10th place spot, and trying to recover once the green flag flies again. But so far here, we are being led by James O'Brien. Actually, that's not right. He's on pit road. So that's going to update here before too long. And ladies and gentlemen, we are 113 laps in, with 87 laps left in tonight's race as of now. And we are being led by 89 of Brian Wayand, Kevin Whitaker 2nd, Joseph Youngkins 3rd, Christian Swenson 4th, and Craig Hawkins in the 5th place spot. And we have the 8 of Stephen Aguiar, currently on pit road in the 22nd place spot, and the first and only driver 1 lap down. And his machine does not seem to be damaged unless he's getting some internal damage fixed that we might not know about. Yeah, it looks like he's getting ahead of the pace car, and off pit road he goes. And the 10 of Corey Smith. Corey Smith currently in the 7th place spot. Been keeping a low profile, and now is up here in the top 10, starting behind the 23 of Craig Hawkins. But we are now back 1 to green, being led by Brian Wayand with the help of Joseph Youngkins. Outside line being led by Kevin Whitaker with the help of 15 of Christian Swenson. We are going green. Pace car dips off. Brian finds the gas, but immediately the green flag is out. But a drag race between himself and the 18 of Whitaker as they go side by side entering turn 1. Entering turn 1, though, Brian able to maintain the race lead, but now Joseph Youngkins against 18 of Whitaker side by side off turn 2. Gen X Racing drivers going at it side by side. They might be teammates, but when it comes down to it, it's every man for himself going at it for this championship against the 9 of James O'Brien. And Youngkins able to edge out his teammate Whitaker, and he takes over 2nd place, and Whitaker bumped down to 3rd place for now. And Craig Hawkins as well sneaks in between the 18 of Whitaker and the 15 of Swenson. But Swenson back to the inside of Craig Hawkins, side by side off turn 2. Slingshot engaged by Hawkins against Swenson. They still stay side by side entering turn 3, but looks like Swenson ends up driving it in hard entering turn number 3 off turn 4. Slingshot engaged by Hawkins, and crossover move. He goes to his inside entering turn 1. Craig Hawkins very determined to take back this 4th place spot against Swenson. Almost make contact off the exit of turn number 3, but no harm done. Still green flag racing. Slingshot still engaged by Swenson, but Hawkins not backing off either on the inside. Oh man, Hawkins taps the apron off the exit of turn number 2. It slows him down enough for Swenson to get around him. And Swenson 2 makes a mistake entering turn 3, went sideways enough for Craig Hawkins to go back to his inside, side by side still. Oh, this is attracting a lot of attention. We have Ian Lane in this mix. Ian Lane just slowly creeping up to these two drivers at quite the rate. But so far they seem to have gone back single file. No sideways action by Hawkins off the exit of turn number 4. Enough for Swenson to go to his inside. Hawkins gets a little bit sideways entering turn number 2, and that costs him a lot of time and 2 spots. And now Hawkins looks into the rear view. He sees the 81 of Seth Silverio. Seth Silverio as well has a heavy foot and is not afraid to use it. He finished 6th last week at Bristol and is trying to finish 5 spots higher and hopefully get himself locked into the chase. And for those new viewers out there, welcome to the Online Sim Racing Network. And here this season, the PRL, ladies and gentlemen, has a 13-race regular race season, followed by a 7-race chase series for a total of 20 races, 20 weeks. So 13 races in regular season and 7 races in the chase series. So the drivers now at this point only have 11 races left to get themselves locked into the upcoming chase to go against the 9 of James O'Brien for his title. And keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, James O'Brien, our defending champion this season, is a 3-time PRL champion. He's trying to go for his 4th championship. And that is very impressive at the same time, not to keep just to add on to that. And 88 of Daniel Smallwood making some headway as we speak. Just overtook the 59 of Brennan Chatley, and now his next victim, 35 of Rory Collins, for 15th. Also, something I forgot to mention was that the 99 of Brandon Walter was able to get his lap back. He got the lucky dog during the last caution and is now back on the lead lap here on lap 129. So congrats to Brandon Walter, despite his bad luck there early on. '17 of Jerome Berthome going at it side by side with 64 of Michael Knight. Jerome Berthome trying to maintain the 18th place spot, but Michael Knight and the 8 of Aguiar making that extra difficult, and that bumps Jerome Berthome down to 19th and Michael Knight into the 18th place spot, but no harm done by the 8 of Aguiar against Jerome Berthome, because Aguiar is 1 lap down. And some more side-by-side Rory Collins and 88 of Brandon Walter. Actually, sorry, 88 of Daniel Smallwood. So far here, Daniel Smallwood on the inside of the 35 of Rory Collins, who smacks the wall off the exit of turn number 2. And he lost all his speed and momentum against Smallwood, who gets around him. But going back up front, the leader is still the 89 of Brian Wayand. Brian Wayand has 51 of Joseph Yankins right behind him. And Yankins to his inside as we speak, making a move for the race lead. And that moves Wayand up the track. But regardless, he gets a slingshot off the turn and maintains the lead against Yankins. So now Yankans now is trying to just back it up, do it again, and this time make it work. I see what Yankan's doing against 89 of Brian Wayand. He's driving it in hard, entering the turns to try and shake up Brian, but so far Brian seems to not be falling for it. In the 6th and 7th place spots, actually 5th and 6th place positions. That's going to be 23 Craig Hawkins and the 98 of Ian Lane, and now including the 81 of Seth Silverio. They have found each other. They are a pack of their own, trying to catch up their next victims, namely Kevin Whitaker and Christian Swenson. And we did not speak much of Ian Lane there early on, but ever since he came into the top 10, he's stayed in the top 10. He did qualify in the 8th place spot, but ended up getting shuffled out of the top 10, but is now back. For the back in the pack, the 10 of Corey Smith trying to go at it against 79 of Joshua Witherspoon. Corey Smith currently in the 10th place spot after starting in the 9th place spot. He goes to the inside of Witherspoon, side by side off turn 4. Entering turn 1, they stay side by side, but Witherspoon ends up falling short of turn 2. And Corey Smith bumped up 1 spot to 9th. Side by side, going on up front between the 81 of Seth Silverio and the 98 of Ian Lane. Ian Lane in 6th place, Seth in 7th place, and Seth gets around Ian Lane and bumps himself up to 6th, and Ian down to 7th. But now Ian Lane is being challenged by 22 of Richard Regan. That's unfortunate for Ian Lane, losing 2 spots in 1 lap to both Seth Silverio and 22 of Richard Regan. That's just one thing about this track, Richmond, is that if your inside is occupied and you're shuffled out to the outside, basically it is very difficult for you on the outside to hold off the drivers on the inside, because the inside, keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, the inside is the shortest way around the racing surface. And in this case, we had Seth get around Ian Lane at the exact same time. Ian had no choice but to stay outside because his inside was occupied by 22 of Richard Regan, who was following the line of Seth. And that was a way for Ian to lose 2 spots in that 1 lap. He had nowhere to go, unfortunately. But he still held his own, currently in the 8th place spot. Oh, Jerome Berthome gets smacked into the wall off the exit of turn number 2 and bounces off of it unharmed. And the green flag still stays out, but as we speak, he's getting freight trained left and right at a fast rate. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with 147 laps in and 54 laps left in tonight's race, let's take one more commercial break. We'll be right back, so please stay tuned. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to round number 3 of 13 at Richmond Raceway. This is race number 3 of 13 with the Precision Racing League AMSOIL American Iracing Sunday Series. That's Precision Racing League AMSOIL American Iracing Sunday Series, brought to you by AMSOIL, which is spelled AMSOIL, and they do specialize in synthetic lubricants for vehicles and equipment, and they are the first in synthetics, so check them out at amsoil.com. Going back to the race, ladies and gentlemen, we are still green flag racing. So far, 160 laps in with 41 laps left. But ladies and gentlemen, we have had some sad news, if you will. We have 18 races before a rain delay comes in. That's 18 minutes, actually I said seconds, 18 minutes before a rain delay, and 40 laps left in the race. So with that said, we're not sure if we're going to be able to, whether or not we're going to be able to finish this race, complete the whole 200 laps. But we're going to find out here before too long. So 40 laps left, 161 laps complete with 18 minutes before the rain. We are still being led by 89 of Brian Wayand, Joseph Youngkin second, Christian Swenson third, Kevin Whitaker fourth, and Seth Silverio in the 5th place spot. And at this point, the drivers have gone 51 laps since their last pit stop, and I do not believe they need a pit stop to be able to make it the rest of the way. But we're going to find out before too long. And Youngkin goes sideways. Oh, he saves it off the track. Exiting turn number 2 on the green flag, stays out somehow. What a nice save by Youngkin. Oh man, he's most likely very upset about that, because that sets him back a long ways, because he was all over the rear end of Brian Wayand, the leader, before the incident. But now, as we speak, Joseph Youngkin's trying to play catch-up. He's behind the 18 of Kevin Whitaker, who in turn is behind the 15 of Christian Swenson. And so far, a Sunday drive for Brian Wayand, the race leader for now. He is 1.1 seconds ahead of second-place driver Christian Swenson. I hear you, John. And it's 81 of Seth Silverio getting around, 64 of Michael Knight. Michael Knight being shown 1 lap down. With how quick this race is, we have a lot of drivers being shown 1 lap down, because the drivers running 20 to 21 second lap times, and for those drivers who ride for too long end up going a lap down or more before too long. So at this point, only 15 drivers on the lead lap, with Cotton Lane being the last driver on the lead lap and on the line, on the borderline to getting put 1 lap down by the leaders, because the leader does have him in his sight, and that is Brian Wayand. So far, 15 drivers on the lead lap. Rory Collins 1 lap down, Brendan Chatley 1 lap down, Michael Knight 1 lap down, David Dreckman, Brennan Walter, Stephen Aguiar, and Jerome Berthome all 1 lap down. Yep, it has been confirmed. We are not going to be able to make it the full 200 laps in tonight's race due to that rain delay coming up in 15 minutes time. At this point, we have 31 laps left in the race, and 89 of Wayand up front battling some serious laps traffic. He gets around the 60 of Cotton Lane, and that now gives us only 14 drivers on the lead lap. And due to the heavy traffic that Brian was tackling or battling, that it helped Christian Swenson and Kevin Whitaker catch up, or I should say in this case, shaved some time off his lead against them. So at this point, we have Christian Swenson, who's a 9/10 of a second against Brian Wayand this time around. And now Christian Swenson battling the exact same traffic that Wayand had to face, and that helps Brian Wayand as well. A status check on the 88 of Daniel Smallwood. Daniel Smallwood has come a long way this far after his bad luck during the incident there. He's currently now being shown 9th place ahead of Ian Lane, and behind his next victim, the 10 of Corey Smith, sorry. And here at this point, we have Daniel Smallwood driving the wheels off that machine. He was sideways. Entering turn 1 is pushing the machine to the limit. It is showing. And that's right, John, it is now go time for the drivers at this point. Some 3 wide going on. Michael Knight, Richard Regan, and Brandon Chatley. They end up going back double wide. And 22 so far here, that's Richard Regan. He ends up getting past both drivers during the 3 wide action. And so far, Regan being shown 6th. We have Brendan Chatley 1 lap down in 17th, and Michael Knight 1 lap down in 18th. So that was for position between Chatley and Michael Knight. And Craig Hawkins here now has his eyes on the prize being the 22 of Richard Regan for 6th. Ladies and gentlemen, so at this point we have 11 minutes left and 23 laps to complete. If we end up finishing or completing the 200 laps, it's going to be very, very close. But most likely we will complete. Should complete at least, let's see, at least 19 to 20 more laps. That's if the caution does not come out again. But if we have another caution before the race ends, that will mean we will not complete the full 200 laps. And we are now showing only 13 drivers on the lead lap. John Labatt put down 1 lap, including Coton Lane. So now Joshua Witherspoon is on the border to getting overtaken by the leader. Yes, the leader is right behind him. He might be going a lap down before too long if Brian gets around him. Witherspoon stays high but says, nope, I want to stay on the lead lap as much as I can. But entering turn 1, Brian gets around the 79 of Witherspoon, and that now gives us only 12 drivers on the lead lap. And now the next driver to go a lap down, or who will be going a lap down if the leader catches him and gets around him, is the 9 of James O'Brien. We have Christian Swenson, Kevin Whitaker catching up to 89 of Brian Wayand. It seems to be a little bit of a chain effect. Well, not really chain effect. Basically, what I'm trying to say is it's pretty much a stalemate between or among the 3 drivers, Christian Swenson, Kevin Whitaker against Brian Wayand. They seem to be catching up to him, but then he ends up gaining that time back with every single lap. So it's just going back and forth among them. So a lap ago, they were both 0.8 of a second behind him, the leader that is, but now that went up to 1.3 seconds. Yeah, it's due to all the laps traffic that they're all having to deal with. And the laps traffic here does cause a lot of interesting effects for the drivers out there. A lot of them have to be on their toes to try and not to get taken out. Or in this case, not get taken out, but it's very difficult for the lap traffic to focus on the rear view while having to race at the same time. And the three drivers have found each other again. Joseph Yankins, Kevin Whitaker, and Christian Swenson, nose to tail, second through fourth. An update on time versus laps. We have 13 laps to complete and 8 minutes left. And a battle so far brewing up between the 88 of Daniel Smallwood and the 10 of Corey Smith. There are nose to tail here so far for the 8th place spot. Both of them trying to catch. Oh, 64 Michael Knight almost bounces off the wall, off the exit of turn 2. And that slows down both 88 of Smallwood and the 10 of Smith drastically as they gave him room to save it. And Smallwood is very, very loose. He's getting sideways off the exit of every single turn, trying to push the machine to the limit. Going back up front, the leader, 89 of Brian Wand, is now 1.5 seconds ahead of second place driver, 15 of Swenson. He's 1.5 seconds ahead. And his lead keeps getting nothing but bigger. Yep, just went up to 1.6 in one lap. .35 Rory Collins, 00 Kyle Souza side by side. And here Rory Collins 1 lap down, Souza on the lead lap still trying to hold off the 9 of James O'Brien. Everybody this far is battling some laps traffic, but here 00 of Souza going against his victim for position. That is the 98 of Ian Lane, sorry. And Brian Wand has 3 drivers who might be going a lap down if he gets around him, namely namely James O'Brien, Kyle Souza, and Ian Lane, who are nose to tail as we speak. Ladies and gentlemen, 6 laps to go in tonight's race, 6 laps to go with 5 minutes left. Well, it is looking up, ladies and gentlemen. We just might end up having 200 laps complete tonight. For the back in the pack, side by side between Daniel Smallwood and Corey Smith, side by side as we spoke there, but they end up going back single file as Smallwood gets around Corey Smith, and that bumps Corey down to 9th place and Smallwood up to 8th.
Also, Sean, 4 laps to go. Next flag will end the race.
Yep, next flag ends the race. Next flag ends the race. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, it has been go time. The gloves have been off, and everybody's taking. Brian here trying to, he's actually stuck behind the last 3 drivers on the lead lap so far. Kyle Souza, James O'Brien, and Ian Lane. Good news, ladies and gentlemen. We have 2 laps to go. We will be able to complete the whole 200 laps. Second place battle going on between Joseph Jankens and the 15 of Christian Swenson. Jankens definitely making his presence known in the rear view of Swenson, and Swenson trying his best to not fall for the tricks that Jankens playing against him. The white flag is out. The white flag is out. Off the exit of turn 4, Brian Wayand brings this thing home unchallenged, and James O'Brien able to maintain the lead lap in 10th place. So Swenson comes out second, Joseph Jankens third, and Kevin Whitaker fourth. Seth Silverio in the 5th place spot, rounding up the top 5. We end tonight's race with 10 seconds left in the server. And top 3 interviews coming up, ladies and gentlemen. Brian Wayand, Christian Swenson, and Joseph Jankens. So please stay tuned. Well, ladies and gentlemen, joined up in the booth by the top 3 drivers.
By you? Oh, no.
89 of Brian Wayand, Christian Swenson, and 51 of Joseph Jankens. We're going to start with tonight's race winner, 89 of Brian Wayand. You got a cup there, Brian?
Yes, I do.
How you doing tonight?
Great.
Well, man, all race long tonight, you were able to stay alive, stay consistent, keep your stuff, basically conserve your stuff, and be successful in the process in the long run. How's your experience tonight? How's your experience?
Well, I started off the race really tight. I freed it up a little bit, and then me and Joe had it hashed it out there for a good while for the middle section of the race, and the only way I knew I was going to beat him is if I had to force him to stay on the low side to try to pass me. So I just kept running the high line when he would get close, and finally he made a mistake, and I think that kind of just let the door open then for me. But other than that, I'm pretty sure he had a better car than what I did. But I can't say enough about AmSoil for coming along to sponsor us in the league here. Thanks to all the Gen X guys. I mean, we put in lots of hard work every week to finish up front.
Oh, absolutely. And Brian, man, towards the very end of the race, once you had that heck of a lead against Swenson, Jankens, Kevin Whitaker, including Seth Silverio, we noticed that you were battling a lot, and I say a lot, of traffic on your way to keep these drivers behind you. How were you able to keep that much pressure away?
Basically just trying to focus on where they're running at, and just making sure I'm going to set them up properly going into the turn. That way I can get a good exit on them to actually get around them.
Oh, most definitely, man. Well, congrats on the success all race long, and look forward to seeing you on the exact same spot. Also, once again, congratulations. I forgot to talk about this. Congratulations on getting yourself locked into this chase coming up in the next 10 races. So congrats. You're setting yourself up well for the remainder of the season. And once again, congratulations.
Thank you.
And that was Brian Wayand, Gen X Racing driver, first-time winner tonight for the 3rd race of the season. But next in line is 15 of Christian Swenson, his teammate. Get up there, Christian.
Good evening.
How are you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm good now.
I can imagine, man. You had 51 of Jankens all over your rear view, pretty much the last half of that race. How's your experience tonight?
It was fun. I did everything I could to take myself out of that race, and I just kept working, making adjustments, and the car eventually came to me. And at the end I was there. Not enough for Brian, but I don't know, just keep working at it.
Oh, absolutely, man. Well, a heck of an appearance on your part here tonight, and a great success as a result of your hard work and determination. And what seems to have been your most difficult challenge tonight?
The car was a little loose for me at the beginning of the race. I think I went from 10th up to 2nd, and then ended up at the back, and I self-spun. I got bumped a couple of times, so like I said, I tried to do everything I could to kill myself in this race, but I worked at it. I tightened the car up a little bit, and it came to me.
Oh, copy that. Well, congrats on the success, despite your few difficulties here and there throughout the race, and also keeping big threats behind you. Joseph Youngkins, Kevin Whitaker, including Seth Seal, very heavy aliens here tonight, and you ended up coming up on the upper hand in 2nd place. Well, any final words before you go?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I was saying, any final words before you go?
Oh, yeah. First of all, I want to say thanks to my teammates, to Gen X Racing. They do a lot for us. We work really, really hard together, and we work really well together. All the guys here are great. It's fun to race with them because we know each other's tendencies, and so you can be a little more aggressive and know what's probably going to happen. It doesn't always end up that way. Also got to thank AMSOIL for coming on board and supporting this series, and for supporting my team. It was a huge addition for us, and we really look forward to what this is going to bring into the future for PRL and for Gen X.
Well, congrats on the success once again here tonight, and look forward to seeing you one spot higher next week at Talladega. Hopefully you're able to get yourself locked into this chase with your teammates, Gen X. So go celebrate. You earned it.
Thank you, and thanks to you guys too for doing the commentating and covering this race.
And that was another Gen X driver, 15 of Christian Swenson, 2nd place finisher. Next in line is 51 of Joseph Youngkins, who finished 3rd place last week too at Bristol. Get up there, Joseph.
Hey, what's going on?
How are you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing good. It was a fun race there.
Oh, indeed, man. It looked like it from our point of view as well. And man, you did so well in tonight's race. You held your own, stayed alive despite some bad luck. And at one point there during that restart, you got caught up in that little incident, but you were still able to get out of that unharmed for the most part. But how was your experience tonight, and how were you able to be successful?
Experience was all good. I was successful because of the Gen X setup. They put a lot of work in these cars, and the car felt really good. A little frustrating at the end because there's just no way to pass without using a bumper, it seemed like. But it was a fun race. Congrats to Brian on his win.
Oh, most definitely, man. And when it comes to, the last couple of laps that you touched on there, when you were trying to get around Swenson and keep the 18 of Whitaker behind you, what was going on through your mind? Basically, when you think back now, what do you think you could have done differently to make that pass?
Not sure if I could have done anything differently. Maybe try to utilize the high line a little better, but it just didn't seem to have a whole lot of grip up there. And these are my teammates, so I'm obviously not going to get into them. So we all race good together. We can all race pretty close together, and it's really fun.
Oh, absolutely, man. Well, congrats on the success. Back-to-back, finishing in the podium last week. 3rd place this week, 3rd place. Hopefully next week, 2 spots higher, so you two can get yourself locked into this chase like your teammate, 18 of Whitaker and 89 of Brian Wayand. Well, before you go to celebrate, Joseph, any final words?
Yeah, I'd like to thank AMSOIL for coming on and sponsoring Gen X. It's pretty cool for them to do that, and thank you guys for the broadcast.
Well, congrats on the success once again, Joseph, and see you again next week, 2 spots higher. Have a good night.
You too, thanks.
That was the Gen X2 racing driver, 51 of Joseph Youngkins. So tonight, 81 Brian Wayand, Christian Swenson, Joseph Youngkins, 1st through 3rd respectively. What a heck of a race by the drivers tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, we were able to complete the full 200 laps despite time working against us, but still a heck of an appearance, heck of a show by every single one of these drivers tonight. And with this track being as fast as it is, as short as it is, only 10 drivers were able to finish on the lead lap, with James O'Brien being the last driver on the lead lap. Well, next week, ladies and gentlemen, is round 4 of 13. That's round 4 of 13. The iRacers.Lounge podcast. That's the iRacers.Lounge podcast at Talladega Superspeedway. What a heck of a race to come. A lot of teammates getting together and working together for a common good. Because at Superspeedways, there is strength in numbers. So once again, Talladega next week. And thanks for being a part of the action tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We can never ever thank you guys enough. And tonight's race, Precision Racing League AMSOIL American Iracing Sunday Series, brought to you by AMSOIL, spelling AMSOIL. They do specialize in synthetic lubricants for vehicles and equipment, and they are the first in synthetics. I am Sean Zulu, and David Everly behind the cameras being my right-hand man. And next race next week at Talladega, and next broadcast is on Tuesday night, Extreme Motorsports 99 Track Series. Have a good night, good rest of the week.